in Virginia that are driving, so they are on our highways. That is an insurance problem. That is just, they haven't passed any of the tests or the training that anyone else would have to do to get a driver's license. So that's one problem. Two, we have residents in Virginia and they're not documented. And this would actually be a way to document them. They're willing to come in to get a driver's license. DMV would be documenting them. There is a problem with identity. We need to have one person, one identity. That's a problem for our courts, a problem for law enforcement, and it's just an issue that needs to be solved. There again, this bill might not go deep enough into how to solve that problem. But I do want to put that out there that this is an issue that we're working on. So solving one problem in code is hard. Solving two, not impossible, but it makes the bar that much higher to try to get this accomplished. So when we look at the highlights of my bill, you can go to, they have a summary. So I'll walk through what someone must do to get a driver's permit card. And I need to make sure that we don't confuse this with a driver's license. This is not a driver's license. This is a driver's permit card. Okay? And there's a big distinction in that. So if you look down the list here, they have to prove identity. They have to have a secondary proof document of who they are. This is probably the number one problem that Virginia will have making my bill work. The state police have an issue with how to prove somebody's identity. And I understand that, and that's where we need to move forward with this bill. To get a driver's permit card, you have to do everything that you or I would have to do to get a driver's license. You have to be of age. You have to take the test. You have to pass the written test. With a driver's permit card, you would actually, only way to pass is to pass the test. You could not take a class like citizens could. You have to take the test and pass the test. You have to take the road test. You'd have to drive under a licensed driver for the same amount of time that we did in our driver's license. No different between our driver's license. This is not giving away driver's permits to people that are here. Then the flip side of this is these are people that work here. The only way that we're going to give driver's permits card is if they have filed Virginia tax returns. So what this bill would have to do, we'd have to establish a link between DMV and the income tax. So they would be verification standing at the gate that they have worked in Virginia and they pay taxes in Virginia. This is not a freebie for anyone that comes in. These are working people. They also have to show residence in Virginia. There's a list of things that they would have to prove that they live in Virginia. So these are people that live in Virginia. These are people that can pass the test. They prove their proficiency in driving. They have to have insurance just like we did. So that you've got that link. If you keep coming down the lines, they did, during this stakeholder group, they came up with different things to check with if this became law. Tracking their employment over next year. They're going to be tracking accidents. They're going to be tracking stuff like that, but really doesn't involve, the type of crashes that they're involved in. That really isn't the crux of getting the driver's permit card. I want to make sure I'm saying that correct. Now the difference between what I proposed and what DMV came out with their stakeholder group is I put the cost at $100. I've never seen government usually overestimates, underestimates the cost and the benefits. So I'm not going to do this for $51 to break even. I think $100, and everyone's willing to pay $100 the first year to do this. It might cost more than $51. I don't want them to come back next year and say, Loxam, you busted their budget because you didn't charge enough. I get that. Then the second thing, they said $20 is going to be the renewal cost. I said $50 a year for the renewal fee. There again, I just think that we need to make sure that we cover the cost of this. Similar to an out-of-state student. These are not citizens. They do not belong, they are not citizens, so they should pay an out-of-state cost for this license. Other than that, Mr. Chairman, that's the basic crux of the bill. Like I said, there are some issues with this bill. I will proceed however you would like to. with this. I think there are issues that over the next year or two we might be able to work out, but I'm not so sure that this bill, I don't want to cause more problems than I solve. But this is a bill that I've moved forward, and I think that we're on the right path. Might be the right time for it.
At the appropriate time, we'll deal with that. Are there any members of the subcommittee who have questions for the patron?
Mr. Chairman, would the chairman like a motion to bring forward Delegate Lawson's committee substitute, so we have that on the table?
Actually, would be appropriate at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept the committee substitute that was brought here today by Delegate Lawson.
We have a second, please? We have a second. We have a motion. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? Switch to the substitute before you. Do any members have a question for the patron? Delegate Davis.
Mr. Chairman, is there someone at the appropriate time from the state police that would be available for comment?
At the appropriate time.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions for the patron? Seeing as we have none. Okay. Those who would like to speak in favor of the bill, please come to the dais. And if anybody else, maybe just form a line, provide the person in front of you with the opportunity to speak. And then all I ask for the member's sake is that, please, if there's, brevity is appreciated, of course, but if there's, say, a group of, say, 5 people, maybe you have a designated person to speak on behalf of the group, and so we appreciate it. But nevertheless, this is an opportunity now to speak in favor of the bill. We have in front of us, we have the commission from the DMV.
Mr. Chairman, I'll try to be very, very brief. First to speak on the legally present.
Please have decorum so that everybody can have their voice heard.
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, first to talk on the legally present bill. Chairman Villanueva's 2020s, Delegate Lopez's 1866, and actually Delegate Corey's 1419 is included within that bill, because that withholding of removal is one of the statuses that those bills address. Just to try to supplement a couple of facts that the patron mentioned. One of the things that you should know is 41 states and the District of Columbia allow these folks who are legally present to be able to drive in their states. And in fact, North Carolina, Kentucky, Maryland, Tennessee, and the District of Columbia, all contiguous to us, allow someone to drive with those statuses. Only West Virginia, and I'm not sure, even though West Virginia is shown on that map there, I'm not sure West Virginia sets a standard that Virginia should but it's New Hampshire, West Virginia, Virginia, Indiana, Wyoming. They statutorily do not provide for driving privileges for these legally present folks. You can add Washington, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. While they don't have a statutory prohibition, they're just silent. And we know that Washington State does issue the license. We're not really sure what the other three do. So again, we're right now one of 9 jurisdictions, one of 9 states that do not allow these folks. If these 6,000 Virginians moved across the border to Maryland or North Carolina, they would be better treated than we're currently treating them. I will tell you that the administration strongly supports the chairman's bill and Delegate Lopez's bill and Delegate Corey's bill. On the driver privilege, the broader bill, the administration also supports that bill, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions, any subsequent questions on any of these bills.
Right. So just to piggyback on that, there's literally we're one of only 5 states that proactively don't allow these folks who, according to the federal government, should be allowed to stay here, get a driver's license.
Mr. Chairman, I have to thank you.
Okay, if you could, next person, please.
As a gap of my knowledge of the law, Mr. Commissioner, you can help me on. If a person is in our country under a student visa, let's say they're a native of the United Kingdom and they're studying at the University of Virginia, is there a mechanism on the books for them to get a temporary Virginia driver's license in the period of their student visa, or what's the process for that?
Mr. Chairman, Dillon mentioned, yeah, that is one of the groups that is legally present that we are allowed to issue a limited duration license. That person does not get an 8-year license like most Virginians. It's tied to what their student visa says they're here for. And that's, the 6,000 people we're talking about would most likely get a one-year limited duration license that would be renewable, or reissued each time they come back in. Commonwealth, there's no budget impact on the chairman's bill and Delegate Doug Lopez and Delegate Torres' bill, because 6,000 people, we can take that with, we can do that with current resources. On Delegate Waxman's bill, he's been so kind to up the price that we probably will actually make money on that, and so there's clearly no budgetary impact on that bill.
Do we have
Follow-up.
Delegate
In
issues?
the case of that student visa, Mr. Commissioner, for insurance, would they have to sign the same statement for either insurance or payment of the non-insured motorist fee, just like regular drivers?
Again, this would be registering for a driver's license, not registering the vehicle.
All right.
And so you don't need to prove insurance. Thank you.
What are the thoughts behind yearly renewal?
Again, the stakeholders, we had a great group of folks, all in, and felt that most of these customers would be here on a limited period of time. Are we talking about the smaller bill or the Bloxham bill?
I just heard it, I don't know which bill it was.
The Bloxham bill, we would issue a driver privilege card for 2 years, because we just feel like we need to see that customer on a routine basis. The legally present, most likely, most of those would be limited, all of them would be limited duration, and most likely they would be for a year. And that's just, we want to make sure that every year that they come in, we can check with the Department of Homeland Security to ensure that their legal status has been maintained.
Do we have any questions for the Commissioner? Seeing as none. Okay, so next, if you would kindly just state your name.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Rick Nagel. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for Nexus Services. We provide many different services to undocumented immigrants, including pro bono legal representation and immigration court. I come before the committee today to speak in support of HB 1682. Extending driving privileges to undocumented immigrants will require them to establish residency in the Commonwealth, file an income tax return in the Commonwealth, and register with the Department of Homeland Security. It would also demonstrate proof of a policy of motor vehicle insurance that has been obtained and is in full force and effect for the year such temporary license is valid or pays the uninsured motorist vehicle fee pursuant to 46.2-706. And such temporary license shall be valid for 1 year from the date of issuance and shall state not for federal identification, voting, or public benefits purposes, in bold print on the face of the temporary license. These drivers will be required to obtain auto insurance, reducing the cost of accidents involving uninsured motorists and potentially lowering insurance rates for everyone. Licensed drivers will be less likely to flee the scene of an accident. Law enforcement can better ensure public safety when they can identify motorists and access accurate traffic records. Unlicensed drivers are 5 times more likely to be involved in a fatal traffic accident. And also, driver's license fees will generate revenue for the Commonwealth. Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee, I respectfully request that you report this bill favorably out of committee. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alvaro Rodriguez. I am a member of No Majority Virginia. I am a resident of Manassas, Virginia. I am an immigrant from Guatemala. I have called Virginia home from more than 20 years. I am here today to ask you to vote yes on SB 1682. A driver's license is a necessity for all who live here in Virginia. 4 years ago, in 2013, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. The impact that this had on my family cannot be understated. I could not transport myself to my doctor appointments in Charlottesville because I couldn't apply for a driver's license. My husband, as a result, had to choose between his job or taking me to the cancer treatment. Being diagnosed with cancer was difficult for my family, but it was made much worse by the fact I couldn't drive to the doctor of the hospital. Today, I am here, I'm better. As a mother, I would like to take my kids to a soccer practice, to school, to church, to get a job, to help my family to get a better quality of life. So I ask you to vote yes on HB 1682 for me, and that many other families are in Virginia trying to build a better life. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, I'm Charles Summers, a Presbyterian minister and a part of the Presbyterian James Public Policy Group. I stand to speak in favor of these two bills, both for the obvious public safety and greater increase in public income through people signing up for taxes, but also to fulfill the biblical mandate that we welcome the stranger. So we speak in support of these bills. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Please come forward and introduce yourself and give us your thoughts on the bill. Welcome.
Hi, 저희 신영이고요. 나팔셀 서비스 코디네이터를 일하고 있고요. 저희 한국 사람 버지니아에 있는 시민들도 운전면허 허용을 촉구합니다.
I'll translate for our service coordinator. We both work at the National Korean American Service and Education Consortium. She works with many immigrant community members, specifically parents, both undocumented and documented. She just says that, you know, for our Korean American community, ensuring that more and more people have expanded access to driver's licenses and privileges will greatly benefit our community. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Anna Taylor. I'm currently a senior at George Mason University Hello, my name is Anna Taylor. I'm currently a senior at George Mason University, and I'm here with the Virginia Latina Advocacy Network. And I'm here because I'm in support of both bills. I've had the privilege of working with students from a variety of different immigration statuses throughout my past 4 years. Working with Mason Dreamers, an organization on campus that works to create a more inclusive environment for undocumented students on campus. And through that privilege of working with them, we've seen the impact that they've made not only on campus, but throughout our community, and they wouldn't have been able to do that without the privilege of being able to attend that higher education institution. I've seen the way in which I want to stress why it's important for them to be able to receive an education free of fear. I know that students that are currently take 2 hours just to get to classes every single day, and just living away from 15 minutes just to bicycle car ride. As a resident of Haymarket, Virginia, it's impossible to get to George Mason University with a bus or through a metro or through public transportation without just taking a taxi. And so to be able to really have that hinder above all of these students and to be really limiting their accessibility to higher education, I really want to stress that and be able to see how helpful both these bills can really be for these students and to be able to receive a higher education. I mean, we pride ourselves, Virginia does, on the amazing higher education system that we have. And so to be able to really allow a lot of more students to be able to access it, I think would be really helpful for not only our economy, but through just our civility. So, thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
Hi, my name is Mauricio. So I came here to speak about just being in favor of the general sentiment of both bills. I wanted to expand a little bit on what Lopez was speaking about just the level of normalcy of life. So I am a citizen, but both of my parents were undocumented. that big, they weren't able to get licenses. So the first few years of my life ended up being very difficult for us. Eventually, they got stats, they got licenses, but that was kind of in a pre-September 11th era. Now, I imagine if I was born after then, with both my parents being undocumented, I wouldn't have been able to achieve what I was able to achieve back then. Now I'm a graduate. My parents were, graduate from George Mason. My parents then were able to drive me to extracurricular activities, just be able to live that normalcy, that normalcy of life. Now I'm married. My wife is undocumented. She understands not being able to live that normalcy of life. Her brothers, who are child citizens, whose parents are undocumented, didn't live the life that I got to. You know, you can't attend to every school program, you can't attend swim practices, you can't do most of the things that most child citizens are able to do. And that's truly unfortunate. And so I came here to speak on just that Virginia commitment, to fulfill that commitment to children that we're kind of just like leaving on the table. So thank you for your time.
My name is Sheila Penalosa. I'm a U.S. citizen, but my husband is an undocumented resident of Virginia. We've been married for 11 years. We applied for his citizenship to begin the process in 2006. And we have gone through a lot of things, a lot of money spent, and we still remain undocumented. We've lived in Henrico County. We have 2 children, ages 7 and 10, that attend Henrico County schools. I just wanted to share with you just a brief picture of how our days go. Some cases 5 to 6 days a week. Because my husband can't drive, he's our breadwinner in our family. He supports, I don't work, he supports us. So because we fear his deportation if he were to be stopped, I drive. We get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and we load 2 children in their pajamas, teddy bears and pillows and blankets into the car. We commute 45 minutes to an hour to drop my husband off. Then turn around and come back home and get the kids ready for school. 5 o'clock, go back, 45 minutes to an hour, commute to pick them up, 45 minutes an hour to come back home. So that's 3 to 3.5 hours a day that I spend in the car along with my children. My son has some behavioral disorders, he has ADHD, oppositional defiant disorder, and that doesn't bode well for his health and mental well-being. So this broad bill, Watson bill, would mean so much to us. It would alleviate a lot of hardship for my family and my kids. So if I'm a citizen, my kids are citizens, but we feel the impact just as much as the undocumented resident. Thanks.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. I'm Father Jack Paziello, Director of Latino Leadership Programs at Sacred Heart Center and curator at Sacred Heart Church. I'm here to speak in favor of Delegate Laxon's bill, and also I've been commissioned to express the opinion of the Catholic bishops of Virginia, who are both in favor of this bill also. We along with our Presbyterian brothers and sisters, we also say we not only say that we welcome the strangers, that we do have our churches, our particular church, Sacred Heart, is so many churches around the Commonwealth full of undocumented persons. But we want safe roads in Virginia. We want our people, our congregants to be driving safely. We want them to be prepared, to be trained, to pass exams, both the written and the driver's exam. We want them to have insurance. We want them to be identified, documented in the sense that we have their names in the database. Because this is not just for their own safety; it's for all the safety of everybody in Virginia. We want them. Well, we have 1,200 people coming to our churches every Sunday. We want them to be safe when they come, safe when they go home, and to be able to teach their children that you fulfill the law by preparing yourself, passing the exams and all. Many of them are here with us. They are willing to pay what the fees might be. Some of them have been here 10, 15, 20 years, and this would take such a burden off their backs, knowing that if they are stopped for some reason, they can say, yes, I've gone through all the processes that the Commonwealth is asking. So thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Members of the committee, thank you for having me here today. My name is Francisco Morales, and I'm a member of New Virginia Majority. Me, my wife, and my daughter, we've been living here in the Commonwealth for 13 years. We live in Chesterfield County. During all these years, we've been working in order to be fully integrated to this great community and the Virginia Commonwealth. We pay taxes, we commit our legal obligations, we have our own private health insurance, we are active members in our church, we also contribute to our community in any way we can, but we still feel like second-class citizens. For years, we've been living with fear because of the lack of a driver's license. I need to provide for my family, and public transportation in Virginia is insufficient. So we need to run the risk to be pulled by an officer every time that we need to go to work, to the hospital, church, or any necessary trip. I have a daughter, my daughter Victoria, she's 16. She's a junior at high school. She's a 4.6 honor student. She's planning to graduate from college 2 years earlier. She's working on that very hard, and I know she's gonna make it. She wants to be a pediatric cardiologist. I know she's gonna make it. She's also in many activities like orchestra concerts. She plays viola. She attends ice skate classes, high level. She's a first-degree black belt in Taekwondo, member of honor societies like Beta, Daughter and Torch. She also reads, writes, and speaks 3 languages so far. And she asks for more, but we have to limit her because we're afraid to try. So that's why, for this reason and many more, that we ask you delegates to vote yes on Bill 1682. Thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Waverly Village. I'm a resident of Richmond and a lifelong resident of Virginia. And I only in the past 3 years through the Catholic Church has become aware of this problem and gotten to be friends with people who face these challenges in their day-to-day life. I've seen it impact their children, not being able to drive to Catholic schools because you're afraid you're going to get pulled over. It's easier to put your kids on a public school bus in a bad district, that kind of thing. Maybe not going to church activities because your tail lights out, and that can mean your dad ends up in the ICE office. So I was totally unaware of this unaware of this problem until probably 2 or 3 years ago. And just the people that I know are such good Virginians. They want to be here, they want to work, they want their kids to do well in school, and also we need to know who's in our state. I mean, it just seems like a win-win for everyone. We have drivers that actually are functional drivers and people willing to register and not be in the shadows. So I just wanted to say that, and I also wanted to say, how many Virginians have even been down to the General Assembly? Look at this. I mean, this level of civic engagement, I want these people in my state. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Alfredo Garcia Martinez. I just want to share a little bit of my story with you guys. I spent 10 years in this country as a undocumented immigrant, 8 of them with my wife, a U.S. citizen. After almost going to jail for driving without a license, I was stopped for going 6 miles over the speed limit. I had to quit driving. I was already in the process of applying for legal status, but I could still be deported. When my first son was born, I rode in the passenger seat while my wife drove to and from the hospital. I felt so small, like I could not be the husband and father I wanted to be. I should have been taking care of them. Thankfully, I was approved for residency after 4 years of waiting on the process. My second son was born in an emergency, and I was so relieved and thankful that I could drive my family than be the husband and father I always imagined. Who I am did not change when I completed the immigration process. I pay my taxes, undocumented, and I pay them now. I work undocumented, and I'm working now. I love my family undocumented, and I love them now. What did change is that I was able to take the driving test, and I failed. After driving in Virginia for 6 years, I thought I was a great driver. But I found out I didn't know the rules of the road. So now that I have a license, I know the roads are safer. During those 6 years, I was pulled over 5 times, and each of those times I gave my true information, but the police wrote my name differently. So my records were not the same. One time, I was driving a company vehicle and rear-ended somebody. Since I didn't have a license, I was so tempted. So just keep going and get out of there. Not to avoid responsibility, I just didn't want to be deported and separated from my family. Please support this bill. People who are in the immigration process or waiting to be eligible to apply are the same as me. Our roads will be safer for all our families. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. I'm going to be translating for Laura Cornelio. Welcome.
Hola, soy Laura Cornelio, vengo del municipio de Charlottesville.
So my name is Laura and I'm coming from Charlottesville.
Y les vengo a pedir con todo mi corazón y la bondad de Dios que nos den la licencia. Como yo soy madre soltera, necesito manejar para llevar a mi hija al doctor.
So I'm asking with all my heart and by the grace of God that you guys will be supporting this bill. I am a single mother and I drive for my kids.
Y soy la única, no hay ninguna familia conmigo, soy madre soltera y tengo que manejar para darle de comer a la niña, trabajar todo. Y cuando necesito llevarlo al hospital, cuando me llevan a la escuela.
So I'm a single mother. I don't have anybody here, so I take care of my kids. I work for my kids, and if I'm called from the school or to the hospital, I have to drive my kids.
Hay muchísima gente que lo necesita porque como la comunidad hay madres solteras y si no uno maneja, con que mantiene sus hijos y les ayuda para que sean más grandes en la vida, que lleguen como ustedes, porque mi hija quiere estudiar ahora leyes.
So as a single mother, it's a question of if I don't do it, who's going to do it? And I'm doing it for my daughter who wants a better life, and she wants to be just like y'all. She wants to be a lawyer to study law.
Sí, lo que necesito es trabajar, para trabajar necesito la licencia para manejar, porque mi hija la carrera que me cambió ahorita es de quiero ser leyes, ya no quiero ser doctora, quiero ser abogada.
So yeah, I mean, and obviously, sorry, I lost it.
De que ahora que vengo a pedirles que nos den licencia porque con lo que va a estudiar mi hija necesito trabajar.
Oh yeah, right. So obviously to drive I need a license, and if I don't have a license, I can't work. And if I can't work, I can't help my daughter with her career. Being a lawyer.
Sí, eso es lo que más yo me urge porque es el bienestar de nuestros hijos, para tener la satisfacción de que nosotros salimos a trabajar y nos está empezando que nos va a agarrar la policía y no los volvemos a ver. Nos meten en la cárcel y nos deportan a nuestros países. Y es lo único que queremos, que nos ayuden con su corazón y que nos den la licencia.
And obviously, just running the risk of being outside driving and then issues with deportation and being picked up. So again, so we ask you, obviously for support for the driver's test.
Okay, gracias y se los agradezco y Dios te lo bendiga.
Okay, thank you, and God bless you all.
Okay, do we have anybody who would like to speak in opposition of either one of these two bills? Opposition, anti. Okay, all right. Having heard everyone, back to committee. I'm so sorry, Melody.
Just last word, if I could, Mr. Chairman. I think you see the problem. I hope that they are, not sympathetic to the choice, but a lot of these rules were tightened up after 9/11. We're trying to unravel this, so there's a lot of sensitivity on that. If I'm not mistaken, 7 of the terrorists had Virginia credentials during that time, so I hope that you all are sensitive to what we're trying to do. I think the committee understands where I'd like this to go in the future, but I also understand that we have to be very sensitive to how loose we let the license get. So.
Thank you, Delegate. Back to the committee. Any motions or comments? Delegate Davis.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I may, is someone from the state police available?
Do we have a representative from Virginia State Police here available?
Or delegates could just clarify a comment.
Delegate Blocks?
Delegate, you had mentioned, and I heard just briefly before popping in, about the concern the state police had about proven identity.
Yes.
With regards to, can you just elaborate, and I apologize.
I think Rick might be able to answer that question as well as I can.
And it's unfortunate the state police made a misstatement. Bottom line, state police does not control what documents the DMV looks at. They're not familiar with the process. Absolutely, and they use an example of someone can get a driver privilege card in Hawaii by just showing a student ID. We know that, and we will not allow a driver privilege card from Hawaii to prove anything. And so, we know what documents we can look at and what documents we'll give full faith and credit to. And so that's a red herring to say, oh, well, look, DMV will just give to anybody. That's almost insulting to DMV. We know we did issue cards to 7 people who lied on their applications. They provided us with falsified information. So we take that very seriously. We want to make sure that we're not issuing credentials to someone who doesn't deserve it. And I'm more than happy to try to educate state police on exactly what we do, because they clearly made misstatements over on the Senate side.
And it's a class 5 felony, is that correct?
Yes, sir, it's a class 6 felony. So even the bill that the chairman has and the bill that the delegate has, it's still, if you lie on your applications, you're going to be prosecuted. Bottom line.
Delegate, you may want to, Delegate Davis, you may want to take a look at 9.1, 9.3, some of the issues. I think that code section was brought up.
Yes, sir.
So, all right, do you have any final comments or entertaining motions? Now, just as a recap, to where we were, Delegate Lopez in his testimony said that he would be willing to table the bill in deference to the committee chairman's House Bill 2020. Delegate Bloxham, I believe, you're agreeable as well with some of the legislation. Have you spoken, I know you and I had spoken earlier, have you spoken to, or do you need a letter from the subcommittee to the commissioner?
I think we can, off session, try to solve those problems without a letter.
So to be clear, no letter, no nothing?
I think we're fine with that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I think so, yes.
Very well. Well, then with that, Kate?
Mr. Chairman, so here's the correct motion if we want to move this forward.
So when we left the conversation prior to your arrival, Delegate Lopez said that he'd be agreeable to have his bill laid on the table in deference to the chairman of the Transportation Committee, House Bill 2020. And Delegate Bloxham said, if I may paraphrase, we need to continue to work on this bill, and I think we willing to table the bill, continue to work with DMV and the state police to try and move the path forward. So with that in mind, I would accept the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. Mr. Chairman, and we've had a great public hearing. I've learned a lot, and I want to commend all the speakers for just being civil, productive, probative, giving us great information. As the chair noted, Delegate Lopez has word for word the identical bill that our chairman, Delegate Villanueva, has that will be coming up in full committee. And in the old days, Mr. Chairman, we could incorporate Delegate Lopez's identical bill into Delegate Villanueva's identical bill, but that would violate the speaker's rules on incorporation, so we can't merge the two together. For that reason, I would move with respect to Delegate Lopez's bill that we gently lay his bill on the table, and since this issue is going to be discussed at the full committee on an identical bill, this time being carried, by our chairman, we'll be continuing this conversation at the Google Committee level. So a motion on Delegate Lopez's bill will be laid on the table. And if I, Mr. Chairman, I'd be glad to make a motion in concert with Delegate Bloxham's request.
At the appropriate time. Do we have a second for the motion? Second. A second. We have a motion and a second before us at subcommittee. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, very good. Now accept the motion for
Mr. Chairman, I want to appreciate Delegate Bloxham for hard work on the bill. The fact, the girth of this committee substitute shows how hard the body has been working. And, as Delegate Bloxham said, he wants to keep working this to the off season, and I think he'll be back next year and to continue to work on that. So that, Mr. Chairman, I would move that Delegate Bloxham's bill, which is House Bill 1682, be laid gently on the table, and we'll continue our work.
We have a motion and a second. Second. Right. Subcommittee, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to take care of Delegate Corr's bill, which is also?
Well, I have Dylan, I know we got a couple of, I know we got Fowler, Kogi, who's been waiting, and I see that we gotta get, look at the list of one. So what do we do is, if it's okay, we're gonna just kind of move through, and then, if anybody who'd like to speak to Delegate Corey's bill?
Mr. Chairman, I thought you understood the conversation with.
I'm sorry, you're right, Delegate Corey, I apologize. Delegate Corey, I didn't see it, I'm sorry, it's my mistake. So why don't we get Delegate Corey, and then
Thank you. Thank you.
So focused on. All right, Delegate Corey.
Thank you. I wish I were taller. You would have seen me. Members of the committee and Mr. Chairman of the subcommittee, I have been submitting this bill for at least 4 years, maybe 5, and my bill is a more narrow interpretation, but it has the same effect as Chairman Gilliland's bill. And it is to allow people who are here legally to have driving privileges. As you've heard throughout this meeting, there are a significant number of people who are legally in Virginia, especially particularly tugging at the heartstrings, are asylum seekers.
I was going to just interrupt a second. So, I apologize, I'm not trying to be impolite, and I appreciate it. Delegate, would you be agreeable if you just give everybody a minute to just, that way you can speak, you don't have to worry about being interrupted and the members.
Well, actually, I was going to offer to pull my bill or ask you to table it in deference to Chairman Gilliland.
Oh, okay.
So that was the end of my trying to remind you of the need to allow at least people who are here legally.
And Delegate, just so you know, I was going to give you an opportunity to speak, and with people coming in and people leaving, I just wanted you to be able to speak so that everybody in the room wanted to hear you clear. That's all.
I appreciate it, but
Delegate, please go, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I care more about the result if I get to speak, and so many people have already heard me say this year after year, so thank you, Delegate Nancy.
And I also thank you for coming by the office Friday, speaking of the bill, and you worked very hard.
Thank you.
And also the references to the U.S. Code. Having read it over the weekend, I admire your perseverance. It is not the easiest to work through. So, all right, very well. Then we have, I'll accept the motion at the time.
Mr. Chairman, move that we lay gently in Delegate Corey's bill 1419 on gently layout.
Second. Motion and a second. Subcommittee action. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, very well. Okay. We will now Delegate Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have House Bill 1878. If you read the summary, that is exactly what my bill does. And basically, we've all heard extensive testimony about what happens when someone does not have the right to drive or loses their privilege to drive. And a situation came up where a man in my district was driving, has had his license for 74 years. He had no issues with his license, but he did have a situation where he was dependent.
We give it 30 seconds to have an opportunity for people to leave, and then that way you can speak and
there is a
Substitute? I'll have to give everybody enough time to
Okay. He had a situation like where he was dependent on his parents to help him with like financial decisions. But other than that, he was able to drive to and from work, have a job, and live life fairly normally. In this situation with his parents that were helping him in certain decisions of his life, they became elderly and concerned about what would happen should anything happen to them, that they wanted to get protections for him to protect him in legal matters and matters of finances. So they were advised by social services to have him, and he was agreeable, to be adjudicated and incapacitated so that someone could be appointed to help him in certain decisions. Well, at the time that this was happening, and his family attorney is here, immediately he lost his driver's license because the code was not flexible to allow extenuating circumstances. So we have a bill that has been joined with us in helping us craft this bill to ensure that it does exactly what we want to do by the Deputy Commissioner of DMV and by one of the legislative staffers from the DMV to help us craft this bill because others in the state have come up with the same situation. I know Delegate Hope had a very similar bill, who will be co-signing mine, to make sure, and if you look at the language, even out of the summary, it removes the requirement that upon notice, the Commissioner of the Department of Motor Vehicles must suspend the license. So there was no other choice for them of a person who's been legally adjudged to be incapacitated. If on the basis of medical evidence in the court order, the court has specifically permitted such a person the right to drive. Current law requires such suspension regardless of the court order permitting a person deemed incapacitated the right to drive. The bill provides that if the court order specifically permits the person adjudicated incapacitated to drive, the court shall not send a certified copy of abstract of such adjudication to the commissioner. So what used to happen is if a person was adjudicated incapacitated immediately, they were instructed to send that to the DMV and the license was revoked. This would say that there is no, if the court specifically provides in the court order, there will be no automatic notifying of the commissioner of the DMV. The person will be able to retain their license. And if you have any questions, I do have the family attorney, and I'll ask Millicent Ford if I explained that properly.
Okay, members of the committee, do we have any questions for the patient? Seeing as none, do we have anybody here who would like to speak in favor of the bill? Yes, sir. Welcome.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the subcommittee. My name is Robert Brooks. I'm actually the attorney, my firm and I were the attorneys who handled the Duke case that Delegate Hoagie just cited to you. That particular situation was a 50-year-old individual who had a license for 17 plus years. He did need help from his adoptive parents who were elderly at this particular time. They did not have any other family members to help take care of this gentleman. A power of attorney was not at work, with no one for him to assign that responsibility to. And unfortunately, the moment that we got the guardianship and serviceship, 2 months later, we get a phone call that his license has been suspended / revoked. We went through the process of trying to obtain a limited guardianship that allowed him to drive. There is no such capability in the current code. We attempted it, and we were told that in order for him to be able to drive, he had to be restored to full capacity, which took away the protections that his parents were seeking for him upon their death. Jewish Family Services was going to step up and help him. This particular House Bill 1878 allows the court, upon an individual like the individual that we represented, upon the initial hearing, to be able to order that he has the ability to maintain his driver's license and he doesn't have to go into further testing. That would work in a situation when he had 17 years of driving experience. If the judge still feels that he or she feels more comfortable with further testing, the judge can also order that. So it's not the judge does not control it all, DMV still does to the extent that that situation. It also allows, which we have many cases, that a person is already deemed adjudicated and incapacitated. At this particular time, there would be no way of getting a license unless they're completely restored to full capacity. This House Bill 1878 does allow that if someone feels they have the ability to drive, their family, their representative can petition the court, show proof that they have the ability to drive, doctor's testimony, however it may be, and at that point, they have to go through the same testing that everybody else has to go through in order to obtain a license. This bill not only helps this individual that I just spoke about, but also an 18-year-old that we were waiting on this bill to see what happens before we file, because he is capable of possibly driving, but if we file the guardianship, he does need help with other aspects of his life and protections from individuals trying to take advantage of him. But we don't want to take away his autonomy completely when he has the ability to drive and he has no way to get around him. Also helps with a 60 to 65-year-old male or female who something has, or even older, something has just gone loose in their mental capacity. And I've had 3 different cases in the last 6 months where the family came in wanting to help their family member. They still live at home alone, they still drive, they still work, but they're writing $50,000 checks off to someone on the internet, and they don't realize that they're doing anything wrong because they fell in love with that person, but they're not there mentally. This allows them to still keep their job, but have someone step in to stop the exit of their funds from their accounts. So we are here asking, please support this particular House Bill 1878, and I thank you, and I'm prepared for to answer any questions if you have any.
Elliot Vinci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me ask a question, counsel. I'm reading the bill that what it's being asked for is a Virginia driver's license holder who is adjudicated as being incapacitated under Title 64.2. And that means that you can't sign a will. There's certain kinds of negotiable instruments you can't sign. You have to act through a guardian appointed to you. But that even though the court has said you are incapacitated, you still should be able to drive. And it seems to be saying by the bill that you don't have the capacity to sign a will to control your assets, but irrespective of that incapacity, you still have enough capacity so as to drive a vehicle on the highways of a Commonwealth. And it seems to be saying that there's 2 genera of incapacitation, and one is less important than the other. That you can be, if you're not able to sign a will, but you can drive a car at 70 miles an hour on Interstate 95. And it seems to me that you're saying you're kind of wanting to advocate either 2, maybe because they don't understand the full spectrum of potential mental illness that could give rise to the incapacitation. But help me understand how you could be adjudged incapacitated to sign a will, but still be street legal to drive a motor vehicle on the streets of our Commonwealth.
Well, to go back to the individual that you mentioned, he had the ability and actually had a power of attorney in place at the time that we took on this particular matter.
But you can't drive a car through a power of attorney.
Correct. But he had the capability and the mental competence to be able to issue a power of attorney to his parents. The problem is when his parents passed, there was no one else willing to accept the power of attorney to help his son. So he still had the mental capacity, so the only way to ensure that he was protected upon their passing was to obtain a guardianship and conservatorship over him by his parents, and then upon their passing would go to Jewish Family Services to take on that role. So he still had the mental competence to issue a will and a power of attorney at the time that he had the guardianship entered. And there were several individuals just like that have those. Every individual is different, and that's what we're trying to accomplish here: is to have everyone not put under the same umbrella under an incapacitation, but allow each individual person, allow the court to listen to a doctor's testimony, to individual testimony, and not just say everyone's incapacitated can't drive.
Follow-up question. So, I do appreciate the way that the draft bill Second, Mr. Chairman. Have we brought this substitute before the committee yet?
No.
Then allow me to make a motion that this amendment of the nature of substitute on House Bill 1878 is going to be brought before the committee.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But the language does provide on line 23 that a court order must specifically permit such a person to obtain a driver's license. I assume, counsel, there would be some kind of evidentiary showing, you put on some extra witnesses, and they would present evidence to the satisfaction of the guy wearing black in circuit court that this person is street worthy, if I could say that, to drive a car.
Correct. It would be, you would have to bring in evidence from their doctor. And this particular individual that Delegate Cody mentioned, he was actually under a DMV's requirement. Every 2 years, he had to provide a doctor's letter to the DMV in order to maintain his driving privileges. And he was able to do that every 2 years to their satisfaction for the past 17. And so this does allow the judge to hear, he's going to require the judge to hear testimony on their capability of driving, which is going to require a doctor's letter or actual testimony in court. And if the judge is not comfortable saying that this individual can drive, he is allowed to submit to the testing that any other citizen of the Commonwealth would have to pass when they get a license.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you allowing me to act like I'm a court of justice guy, ask some questions, but the court isn't the order that says we think the court has found based on the evidence before the court that we think you're worthy of driving. They do that specific finding in the order. Then the order goes to the commissioner of DMV and the driver's license issued. Does the court keep any continuing jurisdiction to make sure that the person is still a safe driver? In other words, would the court be able to say, come back in 6 months to get your permit re-stamped, or would it be basically in the arms of the commissioner?
The DMV has the authority to do that, and I believe the DMV can speak to that, but they, just like this individual that Delegate Cody mentioned, they would have the ability to come back and still, they're overseeing everything. The judge may give the initial order, but then whether or not that individual maintains his license is going to be up to the DMV in his testing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, counsel. And we can give the DMV a short time.
Do we have anybody else who would like to speak in favor of this legislation?
And as you can understand, this is an adult who has been highly functioning, hasn't needed to be judged in capacity in the past, that he had his license for 17 years, but his whole life has now come to a standstill. He lost his job, he can't go to the grocery store, he can't drive to go to the doctor himself. He does not have a driver's license because the code was so inflexible that it was a cookie cutter approach, and what we're trying to do here is make sure that the human situation comes to bear, and that a judge has the opportunity to make that decision on his medical competency and to allow him to continue to drive, especially this particular person who has been highly functioning. So it absolutely ruined his life. He now suffers from depression and has lost his livelihood.
Do we have anybody who would like to speak in opposition of the bill? Seems we have none. Back to committee, any comments, questions? Delegate, will you give the final word?
On your person.
Move to report. We have a motion to move to report. Have a second? We have a second. Delegate.
I note that there is an emergency clause in the bill. It means we have to get 80 votes. I'd ask the patron, are we comfortable with that? Given we've got 100 delegates, we need 80 of them.
I think that the emergency clause was asked for, and I lost my attorney, there he is.
The emergency clause means we have to have 80 votes on the House bill, correct?
Yes.
I'm
comfortable about emergency.
So we don't need to, okay.
We don't have to make an emergency.
I'd like, if you don't mind amending it, striking that line 54.
And Delegate, just to reaffirm, just for members of the committee who may not have heard his testimony, quite like to vote first, but can you just again please address the need for the emergency?
I'm sorry.
The need for the emergency? Just
What is the need?
Because when you may recall when you began testimony against people that were bleeding, I think maybe some people may have just not heard you first, so just give you a chance to hear you again.
The need for, do you want me to explain the need for
Yes, just
emergency?
forget for
I
that.
think it was, to deal with cases that are pending, or they're not really court cases, but people who are waiting, who have been in danger of losing their licenses. And, so I think the emergency clause would be that it would be law when the governor signs it. And so not to hold anybody up to disrupt their lives any further.
Okay, we have a motion and it's been seconded. Move to report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Done. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Delegate Wilt, House Bill 2075.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, you have before you House Bill 2075. Just a little bit of the backstory to that. Last year we passed legislation that allowed the comprehensive community colleges in Virginia to become third-party testers for commercial driver's license folks that want a driver's license. And you know, when we passed that, what we did, we created a little bit of a problem, and that's what I'm hoping to try to fix here with this legislation. Is some of you may be aware of that testing process can be pretty difficult, and it's not unusual for folks to fail it several times because some people show up with no requirements. You have to go through a training before you show up to take your test. You're going to have to secure somebody that you're allowed to drive the vehicle. Anyways, we're really getting in the weeds, but if you fail, what code says, if you fail that 3 times, you have to go back to a certified training program. The code also says you can't be a certified trainer and tester. And so that was the problem that we created for the community colleges and all the testers actually. And so what this bill attempts to do is to carve out, if you look in the language there on line 56, the comprehensive community colleges in the Virginia community college system to become those testing facilities for those folks, or the training facility, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, become the training facility for those folks that have failed test 3 times. Now, that doesn't allow them to test it. They do have to go back, this time they have to go to the DMV and receive the test to make sure that they have been properly trained. That's kind of the long and short of it.
Thank you, Delegate. Do we have any questions for the chief?
Yeah, if, and maybe I can still get it, okay, but the person has failed it, the test 3 times, what is the community college going to provide that wasn't provided through the period that they had failed it? I guess it's training, so are they trained prior to taking the test initially?
Mr. Chairman, they don't have to be.
They don't have to.
They don't have to be. If you'd like to try out for your commercial driver's license to be tested, now you're going to have your learners and all that. But if you get somebody to be able to take you to the facility in their truck, you can test without any official training.
Okay.
But that's not wise to do that because it's pretty intense. But again, it's not unusual for folks to fail that test. And so they'll try it again and they'll fail it and they'll try it again. But the way the code's written, 3 times and you're out. So now you have to go to this licensed trainer.
Okay.
And that's what we're seeking to do. And Mr. Chairman and committee members, if I could, it's particularly problematic in my area because the nearest training, the certain licensed training facility is in Charlottesville. So I have a person that's potentially failed this 3 times. They have to, depending on the schedule, the trainings, the certified licensed training school in Charlottesville, they could be driving over every other day or every couple days for how many weeks that training class lasts. And that's a hardship. Probably, there's a lot of folks would just throw their hands up and give up. And I have some folks with me here today that can certainly attest to the strain that we have, not only in Virginia, but nationally. One of the area, the most jobs that are critical that we're lacking are truck driving jobs. And so this is just a small piece that can try to help the situation in Virginia. And also, Mr. Chairman, I might add, there's also a component towards the end of the bill that allows, these colleges also to test out of state, or to train, I'm sorry, I apologize for getting my terms mixed up. They can now test out of state folks, but now this would allow them to train them as well. And that's particularly important because in my particular district, I border West Virginia. And so we have quite a number of folks who come over. We have businesses there located in and around my district that require heavily on truck drivers. And a lot of those folks come out of West Virginia. And so that's a component that you'll see in the bill as well. But I do have some folks that are here somewhere that would be glad to speak to the measure. If you have any questions for them, the ones with my local community college and
We'll open up to those who, I'm sorry, do any other members have any other follow-up questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and again, forgive me, okay, but so does this become involuntary or voluntary for the community colleges to do this? I mean, is this something that sort of a mandate for the community colleges to provide this training?
no, ma'am. That's if they wanna to do this.
Okay.
But, Mr. Chairman, if I could, now, if they're gonna step into this world, there are certain training criteria developed by DMV that they have to adhere to.
Okay.
And that's followed up with the DMV that they have to cover that particular training.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Do any other members have any questions?
Okay. Briefly.
Don't mention.
If you're not, so recall that we get to wealthy, community college in Hampton Woods, is that Lord Fairfax?
Mr. Chairman, it's Blue Ridge Community College.
This program, the program that will be going forward, is that already in their curriculum? Where they would not, would this driver training for the CDLs be something that they would have to develop as a programmatic thing, or is it one they're already pretty much doing?
Mr. Chairman, one of the folks that I have here is with Blue Ridge Community College. I certainly welcome him to come forward and share that.
Well,
Jim Butler, Blue Ridge Community College, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You have to refuse you for Lord Fairfax.
That's okay.
You guys do great work.
It's okay, both of them are good schools. This is a program developed for two testing possibilities. One test would be the written test that's taken prior to obtaining a learner's permit. And that's a 3 strikes and you're out. You have to go for Commissioner Holcomb may address this close to my 40-hour retraining program. That's not offered anywhere except for Charlottesville. So it's a week-long program in Charlottesville. The other test that they have to take is an 80-hour skills test. If they fail the skills test at the center with the vehicle, you have to go to an 80-hour retraining program, and again, that's probably Charlottesville. So we would have to develop the curriculum along with the help of DMV to get the right curriculum in place.
Thank you, Jim.
do we have anybody else who would like to speak to the bill? In favor? Dale?
Yes, sir. Chairman Dale Bennett, Virginia Trucking Association, as I've discussed with many of y'all, our industry is facing a tough time trying to attract qualified drivers. We feel that people that want to come to the profession, we should be able to do what we can to help them acquire the skills necessary to do the job. I think this bill is a good step in that direction and asks for your support.
Does anybody else like to speak in favor of the bill? Do we have anybody who would like to speak in opposition of the bill? Seeing as there is none, go back to committee. Any final questions, comments, thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, I do a motion at the appropriate time.
Elliot Mitchell.
Mr. Chairman, I move to report this legislation.
Second. We have a second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.